So, hello everyone. It's nice to see you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrea Kaltenbrunner. I'm a historian and assistant professor at the chair of Southeast and East European history at the University of Regensburg. So we are here today for a CSOP meeting. First, I would like to say a few words about this kind of meeting. What is CSOP? It means Southeast European Studies online platform. It's meant to explore the paradigm of digital humanities and its role in the development of area studies. And we invited speakers from our partner institutions who will present their research on applying digital tools, methods, and techniques to analyze various data covering history, linguistic, anthropology, and language education. And this event is organized by Seafield in collaboration with EOS and our other partner institutions. Today we have two guests, and the first one is Sanja Durin. I will make a short presentation. Sanja is a senior assistant at the Institute of Ethnology and Folklore Research in Zagreb, Croatia. She obtained her BA in philosophy and general linguistics from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at the University of Zagreb, and her master's degree in social anthropology from Institutum Studiorum Humanitatis in Slovenia. In her doctoral thesis, obtained also in Slovenia, she analyzed the politics of sexuality in Croatia across different political regimes from 1941 until 2000. And she's generally interested in social anthropology and cultural studies in outdoor activities, outdoor studies and environment, in new technologies and methods in outdoor studies. She published extensively on various topics, and among her most recent studies are, for example, Highlander Adventure of a Lifetime, Adventure in a Time of Commodification of Outdoor Activities. Another interesting article is the influence of digital technologies on the experience of adventure among outdoor enthusiasts. And the last one that I'm mentioning is Nationality, Identity, and Sexuality, the Politics of Sexuality in Croatia. In today's lecture, she will talk, the title is From Pasture to Wilderness, How Velebit Became the Ultimate Place of Solitude and Adventure. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Hello everybody. I'm also really thankful for the invitation and to get a chance to talk in front of you and to get in connection with people from the Regensburg. I was quite long a time ago short visiting Regensburg, but since then it's already 10 years I haven't been there, so it's really nice to see you all together. And thank you for the invitation. My presentation will be as mentioned, From Pasture to Wilderness, How Velebit Became the Ultimate Place of Solitude and Adventure. I have prepared the PowerPoint presentation so that you can follow me easier. Let me just find the presentation and share it. Just a second. Where is it now? Sorry, just a second. I can't find the window to share. Here. Okay. The presentation I will talk about today is actually part of a research project which is now in its second year of duration. The title of the project is Digital Aesthetization of Fragile Environments, and it is a 3-year research initiative received funding through the Chance competition, which combined the former HERA and North Face programs. The project encompasses 5 academic partners and 4 non-academic partners from Norway, Finland, Poland, Slovenia, and Croatia, comprising public institutions and NGOs closely associated with the selected field sites. It commenced in October 2022 with the primary objective of developing innovative methodologies, particularly senso-digital walks, to explore the impact of digital technologies on the affective connections between people and the environment. So I will just shortly try to explain what does this title, Digital Aestheticization of Fragile Environments, actually means, because this is what people are asking us very often. When we are saying digital aestheticization, what we think actually is a relationship between technology and the experience of space or place. First, meditations on the technological mediation of near and distant cultures and environments have long fascinated scholars and the public alike. So we are not at all new in the idea of researching this relationship. For example, Wolfgang Schivelbusch published in 1977 book The Railway Journey, where he analyzed this relationship between technology, media, and the perception of landscape, and famously argued that the landscape perceived by railway travelers was filtered through the machine ensemble of railroad system, creating a new panoramic view of landscape that was not possible before the railroad. So actually the people were seeing the landscape differently thanks to different settings and the technologies. Also, Walter Benjamin, in his famous paper, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, concluded that the attitude towards art through replication and machine processing has changed man's very perception and the way man sees the world around him, and thus also the aesthetic categories that drive him. So this is actually what we think when we are talking about the digital aestheticization, how digital devices today are mediating this, how will we perceive the landscape around us, but also how it changes as a humans and the society in general. And the second part of the title of the project is Fragile Environments. And what would this mean today when actually every corner of the earth and the place where we live is fragile? We have focused in a project on the particular places just because we had to have a field sites, and these are mainly national parks, nature parks, and similar parts of the land, which are like according some national politics and interests, and because of its biodiversity protected as meaningful landscapes which we have to preserve. And when we are talking about fragility, first idea which always come to my mind are these sticks which you can see here on the left side, which you get on the boxes when you buy, I don't know, new television in a market or a box of the glasses. It's always warning, please handle with the care. And today, when we are talking about the fragile environment, and if you are Google actually fragile environment, fragile earth, environmental crisis, you will very often find this picture of 2 hands holding the earth, like trying to protect it. And what is interesting actually that this aesthetic of fragility and any other aesthetic is also including always particular kind of ethic, in a sense how we should behave when we are looking to the dictionary, how the dictionary is defining aesthetics. It says that it is a perception from the senses, but also the perception by the intellect. It is that which is perceived, ability to perceive, but also cognition or moral discernment in ethical matters. So aesthetic is always filled with particular ethics, and we can also say ideology. Terry Eagleton, in his book, The Ideology of Aesthetics, it's saying that the deconstruction or the modern notion of the aesthetic artifacts is thus inseparable from the construction of the dominant ideological forms of modern class society, and indeed from a whole new form of human subjectivity appropriate to that social order. But my argument is also that the aesthetic, understood in a certain sense, provides an unusually powerful challenge and alternative to these dominant ideological forms, and is in this sense an eminently contradictory phenomenon. This is the end of the quote, and this is actually good for us to see, especially when I will try to show you how the ethics regarding these protected areas changed with the time, and especially for the last 10 to 15 years, how is this important for us today. So in the continuation, let me present you a little bit Velebit Mountain and Paklenica National Park, and this area where I am doing one part of my fieldwork. So on this map, you can see all this green area is actually Velebit National Park. It's on the coast of the Croatia, and it's let's say close to city of Zadar on the coast side, city of Gospić on inner side of the country. The whole Velebit Mountain is actually nature park and protected as a nature park, but within a nature park there are also two national parks, and the national park is the higher degree of protection in Croatia. So on the north it is Northern Velebit National Park, and more closer to Zadar, to the south, is Paklenica National Park. People who are doing outdoor activities or love to climb are very familiar with Paklenica, because Paklenica has these 300 meters high cliffs for suitable for climbing. If we look in a history now and the life on the Velebit Mountain, Velebit is often considered Croatia's most awe-inspiring mountain. Since the early 20th century, it has captivated numerous researchers and outdoor enthusiasts with its rugged terrain, unique rock formations, lush forests, meadows, and pastures. The Croatian Mountaineering Association, established in 1874, was founded with the primary purpose of studying mountains, their diverse biological and geological characteristics. Well before Velebit attracted the interest of researchers, the local communities along the Adriatic coast lived alongside and relied on this mountain. In essence, Velebit and its current paths and trails narrate a tale of rich cultural history and a long history of coexistence between humans and the mountain. First herders in northern Dalmatia and the Velebit foothills tended to their cattle some 8,000 years ago during the Neolithic period. Pasturing took various forms on Velebit, from alpine to transhumans. My interviewees belong to groups engaged in alpine cattle breeding. Alpine livestock farming is specific in that during the winter months, families live together with their livestock on the lowlands, while in the summer months they move to the mountain. To these modest stone houses called stanovi, which you can see here on the photos. It's the same photos from two different periods. They live there alongside their livestock until autumn. And although Velebit has been a place of coexistence of man and nature for centuries, today's discourses present it as a wilderness. But I will say about this a little bit more later. As you have seen also on this photo, this is also like some kind of rephotography. I will tell you a little bit about this method of rephotography and how it showed important in my research. As a part of my archival research for the different project, I stumbled upon all photographs by chance. They were taken on Velebit by Radivoj Simonović, a doctor and mountaineer from the early 20th century. Recognizing some of the location depicted in Simonović photographs, I embarked on fieldwork to revisit these places, take fresh photographs, and compare them with the old ones. This practice is known as rephotography and was originally introduced as a research method by geologist Mark Klett in the mid-20th century. Rephotography has since been embraced by geographers, environmental researchers, and urban planners as a creative means of highlighting changes in environments. So these are some examples of rephotography where you have old and newer photo in urban or non-urban settings showing the differences and changes in environment. Sometimes you have two photos merged in one photo. Depends what is the purpose of doing rephotography and what is the audience. So also the ways how the rephotography will be made is changed. In my case, it was really interesting in this basic sense to see what are the differences in the landscape during the time. So to enhance the effectiveness of my search for precise location depicted in the photos, I enlisted the assistance of a resident of Stari Grad Paklenica and my interviewee to join me in doing this rephotography. As a boy, my narrator had spent his formative years as a shepherd on Velebit alongside his grandfather. Convincing him to join me in the field and help in finding the locations from the old photos was relatively straightforward, as he seemed to harbor the same desire. So one afternoon we set off in his jeep, heading to Veliko Ruino, a vast plateau that was once a hub of pastoral life. Upon reaching Veliko Ruino, I was struck by my narrator's profound connection and familiarity with the landscape we were exploring. We managed to locate nearly every house from the photos, now reduced to ruins, not because my interviewee recognized the structures and houses, but because he could discern the outlines of hills and terrain features that have been barely discernible in the old photos. Just when I thought we had gathered ample material, having identified several houses that seemed representative and visible in the old photos, meeting the criteria of researcher, my narrator persisted, ensuring we visited every spot captured in the old photos. While this extra effort felt unnecessary and physically demanding at time for me, I later realized its importance within the context of rephotography. So through our conversation and photographing, actually complex tapestry of emotions emerged regarding the environment we were documenting. Although my narrator eventually transitioned to tourism as his primary source of income and viewed his life as a shepherd as arduous and harsh, he expressed a longing to return to the mountain and reside in Veliko Ruino again. So my conclusion was actually that the rephotography has emerged as a potential tool in this case, revealing its capacity to establish a profound connection to a place and foster a sense of belonging among local residents. Cultivating this sense of place proves to be a powerful method for reshaping one's perspective and emotional ties to their surroundings. Through our dialogue and photographic journey, my narrator found a voice to articulate the ambivalent emotions tied to the landscape in which he grew up. It was quite harsh, really quite harsh life. So, and this was in general the way how people lived for the centuries on the mountain. And a lot of them actually had a big distance and aversion toward the mountain because it meant a hard life for them. And it slowly changed with the appearance of tourism after the Second World War. But in this area which we are talking now about, it was more after 1960s that the tourism started to accelerate. This photo is really on the one of the bay of Stari Grad Paklenica at the beginning when the tourists were attracted by just to see clear water and pleasant summer weather. Regarding National Park Paklenica, which we can see also here, this here is the big canyon of National Park Paklenica. This is this actually from the other perspective. So this shift in focus from the cattle breeding to tourism significantly actually impacted the local population. In 1949, the southern part of Velebit was designated a national park Paklenica, further attracting tourists and altering traditional ways of life. For instance, goat breeding was banned in the region since goats consumed excessive vegetation, hindering the park's natural regeneration. And in the 1960s, afforestation actions took place within the boundaries of the park to make it more attractive to tourists. So, and during the 60s until the War for Independence in the 1990s, there was some acceptable number of tourists in this area every year, and it wasn't that popular altogether as it is becoming for the last 15 years, and now 10 to 15 years. Now, actually, I would like to talk about this newest period, which is somehow coincide with the conclusion of transition period in Croatia and introduction of neoliberal economic policies in Croatia, but also on the other side, many other social and social changes which somehow made people more think about their lives and wishing to spend more time outdoor and like having a meaningful this leisure time. So actually, this outdoor way of life get the popularity in Croatia for last 10 to 15 years, and it is a part of global trend of outdoor activities. Many of my interviewees mentioned that they do outdoor activities because in the nature they feel alive, because their stay in the mountains is charging their batteries. But as I mentioned, the attractiveness of mountains and of nature and wilderness today is a result of many other global and local economic and sociocultural factors as well. Some of them are environmental, economic, migrant crisis. COVID crisis had made a big difference regarding outdoor activities. Now we have a war crisis. All these crises are making us feel like life is unpredictable from day to day. So we are thinking more about our lives, and we want to spend them meaningfully. And this is one of the reasons why people are going more and more outdoor. Next reason is that the digital technologies from various gadgets, smartphones, watches, applications, and social networks have stimulated the interest of the masses to practice various outdoor activities and adventures. Then also opening of large retail chains of sports equipment at affordable prices is making it easier for people to go outdoor. And of course, new forms of sport facilities such as running schools or guiding hiking trips, which create new forms of sociability. And last but not least, especially in Croatia and especially regarding Velebit, is a travel literature and travel blogs, which are if you look the literature about Velebit for published in last 10 to 15 years, you can see how this discourse about the Velebit mountain completely changed, and from a place which was full of people, now it is presented as wilderness, as a place of solitude and meditation, as a place where you can get in connection with yourself by walking through empty nature and so on. So it is, and this is happening in the same time when national politics regarding tourism and sport is popularizing adventurous experience within the tourism sector in the form of active holidays, adrenaline experiences, or adventure races. And what we have as a result is that the nature parks, mountains, coast, and the sea as places for outdoor activities in Croatia are more and more treated as goods that can be bought and consumed. So the popularization of adventure tourism has led to Velebit being presented as a wilderness, as a place of untouched nature and beautiful landscape. And the result is that in the last 10 to 15 years, we have faced an increasingly intensive commodification of Velebit. Since this is a protected area and an area whose biodiversity we should preserve and nurture, we are facing actually quite big challenge. You can see on these charts how in 10 years actually the number of visitors doubled in these areas. And on the one hand, you have like Croatian tourist board representing mountains in Croatia, like place of solitude, where you can go to mountain and be like on this first picture. The reality is quite often what you see on the next two pictures, or even on this picture. So this picture, which you see, is what is going on more often now on Velebit, and this is organizing big outdoor events in protected areas. So to the best of my knowledge, there are no restrictions regarding visitor numbers or maximum participants per event, and conversation with the organizers of some mass events, such as the Highlander hiking program, which we can see on the photo, have revealed that while they may adhere to the leave no trace principle, they often fail to recognize the broader impact of such events on the biodiversity and the environment. Their primary concern often centers on the litter left behind by participants. Meanwhile, biologists and ornithologists are more concerned about the decline in plant and animal species due to these events. But the organizers of these events do not recognize this impact. And then further, we find ourselves in a paradoxical situation where protected areas are increasingly becoming magnets for tourists and outdoor enthusiasts. Unfortunately, this popularity is accompanied by ineffective management policies and conflicts of interest, exacerbating an already challenging scenario. Initially, the events organized were limited to trekking races, but however, in recent years, there has been a concerning shift towards rally races taking place on the fringes of protected areas, and these quad tourist organized quad tours in the protected areas. For example, where this picture is taken, it's growing some endemic species. I talked to one local man who is having his own tourist agency in Starigrad Paklenica, and I will quote for the end of the presentation his comment actually. Velebit is now open to the entire European public, and we are grappling with the challenge of ensuring effective oversight of this space. Various activities that would be restricted in other parts of Europe are taking place here. Having organized trips to Velebit since 2002, I have closely monitored the situation. Unfortunately, I have observed a significant rise in the number of motor vehicles exploiting the newfound freedom to roam without facing any fees or restrictions across Velebit. A couple of years ago, I encountered a concerning incident during a biking tour. A group of approximately 50 vehicles, including quads, enduro motorcycles, and jeeps, appeared to be engaged in an unofficial race with no formal organization or regulation. In today's age, arranging impromptu races has become remarkably easy through mobile devices. So this is the end of the quote. Let me now go back to the beginning of the presentation when I was talking about the aesthetic and the ethic and how they are connected. If we are looking at these photos, which are all from these rally races, we can see that the aesthetic of these photos includes fun, friendship, camaraderie, happiness. It includes also mud, dirt, aggression, as you can see on this first photo when motorcycle is approaching to the horses, which are running away scared in their living area. you have speed, you have adrenaline, you have machine noise, you have this extraordinariness. And the problem is that this aesthetic is aesthetic of adventure, while adventure is actually meaning conquest, exploration, and exploitation, and it can be in any way connected with the ethic of care, which we should actually have on these protected areas. And in the moment, I'm really fighting with the management of Nature Park Velebit, because they simply don't want to accept, and even the organizer of these races is trying to convince me that he is actually doing best for the area, and that he is fighting a lot for the protection of the area, while in the same time doing things which are really damaging the area, its biodiversity, and so on. So it's I don't have any conclusion. I just want to show you, and this is for sure not a situation which is occurring only in Croatia and in Croatian national parks, because of this popularity of outdoor activities, together with tourism and the pressure which national parks have also from the governments to raise the numbers every year of visitors. It's actually a very problematic situation where you have like protected areas, and in the meantime you want to attract more and more people to these areas. So this will be the end of my presentation. I'm looking forward for your comments. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So,
greetings, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Our next guest is Agim Poshka. I will make a short introduction. Agim Poshka is professor at the Faculty of Languages, Cultures and Communication at the Southeast European University in Tetovo in North Macedonia. He holds a PhD in Applied Linguistics from the same university, and a Master of Sciences in Language Education from the Indiana University in United States. He published extensively on topics such as issues in language education, or on the reforms in the system of education in the period from 2000 to 2014. Another study is called ethnocentric or market-centric societies, bilingualism versus ethnocentrism in the Balkans. Today, he will talk about how to teach digital literacy. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for the opportunity. My topic is quite general. I'm sorry I cannot be as attractive as Sanja's presentation with some input on local settings. I live in a touristic town next to Ohrid Lake, which is a UNESCO protected area, and maybe in another opportunity, this might be something that could be considered as a local treasure. But today we'll speak about, or I'll try to focus towards what we do at university when it comes to living and understanding this new reality that we're in. I will, throughout the presentation, I'll tell you that I'll skip some of the slides because I was expecting more younger students, younger audience. In that regard, there were some Q&A discussions in regards to their learning preferences and so on. But you let me know if that's okay. Let me just move on, and then we'll see how it goes. The overall purpose of what, can you all see the slide, I guess? So the overall purpose of the study that we have been conveying, me and a colleague at the university, it's not the latest project we're working on, but it's something that is related to what goes on in everyday life of our students, is the fact that we live in a digital time, and the earlier we get to understand this, the better it works for most of the teaching process. In that sense, I have been promoting, and we got few projects also going on in the field of edutainment. And shortly, to define edutainment is combination of education and entertainment. And in the digital habitat of our students, this is something that would be considered, based on many studies, something attractive that gains their attention, because obviously the attention span of our students had decreased dramatically in the last 20 years, more particularly after the pandemics, during the pandemics and after that, in which the attention span is believed to be between 4 and up to 6 seconds, which is quite low and quite short for us as educators to get the necessary attention and to promote the overall teaching goals that we have in our classes. In that line, we'll speak about how edutainment can improve this type of attention span, and hopefully look at some successful examples that are around the world, such as National Geographic, Walt Disney, or even edutainment materials produced by Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, which seems to be quite well ranked in the overall edutainment world. In that line, it's pretty clear, I think, for all of us that we live in different area and in this digital life that slowly is taking over our daily routines. It seems like education was the only one that was trying to not ignore, but follow the pace much slower than anything else. Digitalization is being reflected in ministries, in banking system, everything around that. Science, but education or formal education would be hesitant for a few years, and now it seems like we're trying to keep up the pace. And by digitalization, it doesn't mean only digital content, but also producing softwares that accelerate students' attention and moves towards academic goals that you would normally not achieve with a standard classroom with whiteboard and video projection. Okay, and in that line, the overall idea is that I'm not going to go into many theoretical perspective on that, but education, in order to be not only edutainment, but also effective in the online environment, it should be incremental. So it should be more operative. It should be relevant. Often our teaching content is decided by content that is very much 20th century, although we live in another century now. And in that regard, it should be also distributed learning, which means it should provide a lot of variety in regards to multimedia and all the things that are developed around that. In that sense, this is the part when I was going to ask the students about what might this be. This is after a discussion, the conclusion is that this is just a typical test that I ran into. This is my test that I found 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago actually, on my Facebook wall. It was my exam, and at the beginning of the Facebook area, Facebook time age, youngsters were not as good in doing or managing that, although it's a very simple software. So they were even sharing on Facebook and the exam, which showed us all that we as a department should really wake up, because the agility and the strength of this new time that we live in, it's based a lot on sharing. And in that regard, the assessment process, the overall teaching process or content should change, and otherwise we should lock the internet, which is impossible, because we have to understand it's too big to be ignored. And we took some measures. One of them is trying to focus towards how they could learn and develop in this new kingdom that we live in. I guess you know this kingdom. We are currently part of it. I don't work for Google, so it could be anything from Google here and any other search engine that could be spread around here. But it clearly tells us that digital world is too big to be ignored, and in that regard, we should start telling our students what exactly would be the skill that they need in order to survive in this habitat. Very often they don't even need our support for that, but it's good that we formalize this kind of stance. There's a saying that started almost a decade and a half ago, which was by, I thought you can see it, by Ignacio Rodriguez, which says that before the internet, most professional occupations required a large body of knowledge accumulated over years and over or even decades of experience. But now anyone with good critical thinking skills and the ability to focus on the important information can retrieve it on demand from the internet rather than his or her own memory. What it meant is that there is this switch or shift into the importance or the role of the teacher in the classroom within the digital age, in which the teacher is not now the only source of information, and we're slowly moving towards teacher being a facilitator. And because the memory is the knowledge is not required or should be acquired through in our brains, but it's external. For that reason, it turns out that because all this information is available in internet, there are a number of skills that our students should develop in that regard. One of those is, I did not wanted to share full screen, so I guess I have to move this a little so you can all see. One of those was the idea that there's a skill that our students should develop, which sometimes it's not easy to focus or achieve, and that is the filtering skill. What is a filtering skill? We tend to train them in this regard. Filtering is not remembering, but it's more of a mental skill in the digital age. This means every time you search for or you click for a particular information or content online, most probably thousands, if not millions, of sources would be available to you. And the filtering skills comes in here, in which differs the good students from the very good students because of the ability they have to recognize a good source and also use this source for its own purpose. And in this kingdom that I mentioned, the huge amount of information should not be a challenge. 30, 40 years ago, having access to information was a big challenge. Now having too much information, it is challenge. And one of the skills that we tend to teach is the very good filtering skill. And there's a series of lectures in that regard. I did also an experiment with my students in regards to how good their filtering skill is. I teach at master's level a course called ESP, which is English for Specific Purposes. You know, English for law, English for medical purposes, in business English, and so on and so forth. And the task was very simple. I gave them 1 week to find online a video material that could be used for academic purposes. I gave them a list of topics, and based on these topics, they have to go on YouTube or anywhere that they think they could use video materials and bring these videos to class and use them in the context that they were trained. Out of 22 students in class, 20 of them brought material that seems to be interesting at the beginning, but after a while, you realize that they are actually commercial materials, video materials that were selling something in between the lines of the lecture. So obviously their filtering skill was not to the level it meant to. Only 2 of them provided straightforward, TED Talk kind of materials that are directly related to the target class that we had in mind. So obviously we had to spend more time in the filtering skill, because the setting that our students are living now is more or less explained very well in the picture that you see here. If I could have your attention for a second, the first or the top picture here shows how often our students, which are in our classroom, and it's not as dramatic with these lights and colors and everything is shady around them, but we've probably seen from our students, from our children at home, that when they are at home on study, if they're studying even, or if they're not studying, the environment in the second photo is much more entertaining to them, okay? And probably one of the biggest challenges for us to move this joy that they have and copy it and hopefully get varieties of it within the classroom, which will be a challenge that we will face in the following century in education, because digital literacy, digital content, entertainment, all they should go in within the purpose of making ourselves quite comfortable in their natural habitat. This is a natural habitat that the new generation is living in, and we need to connect to this if we want to achieve particular academic goals. Okay, and I'll bring in some facts that are shocking and sometimes impressive, depending on which angle you look into it. According to YouTube Press, which is the official blog of YouTube, there are 500 hours of videos uploaded per minute in their platform. So 5 hours. Technically, there's 1 billion hours a day consumed. The age of consumers of these products are between 17 up to 48, 49, and 50 years old. So it includes our target group, at least for us as at university, it includes the age of our students. For that reason, we need to be aware that we are also aware that 1 billion hours of material there is not educational. A very small portion of it is education. However, the totality of all this tells us that we need to focus towards more visual, interactive type of products. And this is where the edutainment material or edutainment concept is becoming slowly, maybe not mainstream, but part of the teaching pedagogy that we assume would be even more present in the upcoming decades. In a study convened by ranker.com, this is a website that is very well, it has a very good reputation when it comes to ranking different type of phenomena. There are three top, I mean, in the list of top 10, 3 of them which are quite, that we could relate to. One of them is something that probably you've seen in National Geographic, an entertainment material called The Brain Game. I know I watched this a lot at the time that it was produced. It was ranked as number 3, which is educational but also entertaining. So you bring in some facts about how brain works and then make some tests about it, give it some sort of entertaining angle, and obviously it attracts more and more students. There's also this, on number 5, it was Emily Wonder Lab. It's a TV series that I see my daughter is following. She's only 9, but there's Emily that does all these lab experiments and bring in some very interesting input from the perspective of a kid to natural sciences such as math, physics, chemistry, and all type of experiments that develop in that line. But also in that impressive list, there's also material produced by Parag, Michel Obama, and 2 other producers called We the People, which is a legal type of documentary or series on Netflix that was ranked number 7. So all these, obviously, edutainment materials from National Geographic to lab and to legal type of topics clearly are attractive or gain more attention that you would normally have in a regular typical classroom compared to regular typical classrooms that we have inherited from previous set of education. So more and more edutainment would be present in that regard. Of course, there are some cons for that. There's a negative side or disadvantages, and the fact is that it is strongly or it's quite addictively dependent on the IT infrastructure, which includes video games and other multimedia. And just like I had this morning, a system crash, similar thing could happen in our classes. So this would be one of the disadvantages of digital content and edutainment, more particularly. And also, by being too much in this virtual reality, some of our students cannot really become dependent on these machines, and some of this cannot be replicated on everyday life because the excitement and the energy that goes in there in putting these materials together, obviously it's very difficult and strongly time consuming to produce them, all in all. There are, of course, some ethical concerns that we need not to ignore, and this is where we would have a discussion with our students, or if they were present in the panel today. And it was mainly related to certain dilemmas about more or less what also my Sanja earlier mentioned in regards to what are the dilemmas or morals between, do we have benefits, do we enjoy, do we see, in that case it was Velebit's, which is a very nice natural park I visited myself as well. Do we see that as a commodity, or is it nice because it's quiet, or is it enough to be quiet, or do we want to be overcrowded with more and more visitors? In that line, do we want to have more digital content? Do we create a parallel virtual reality in that kind? If we do, is this the right approach? Are we making the right choices or the wrong choices? Is there a moral code in that regard, and so on? This will be part of the discussion. And at the end, not to forget, this is not the end, but the one before the end, not to forget that this type of material could also benefit or be on the positive side, can be beneficial for vulnerable groups, which means you probably have seen kids with special needs, elderly, any type of vulnerable groups who have difficulties in creating any kind of bond with people. And you could see that in that regard, technology, digital content, digital products have strong impact, and not only in the educational, entertaining aspect, but also educational aspect. And of course, by all of us being part of this European geography, within the EU, there are a number of products that promote the audiovisual content and tools to enhance teaching learning outcomes in special education as well, because obviously it is considered to be quite beneficial. And in many cases could be considered as a tool for social inclusion for introvert students, and stimulate some sort of joy in continuous fulfillment in the education process, which sometimes lately this has been a challenge. I say a challenge because it seems like schools seems to have lost touch, at least in our region, with the everyday routine of our students. We might not be, at least we in the Western Balkans are not necessarily part of the European Union, but the trends that develop globally are easily present in the day of our younger generation. And by being stubborn and keeping the educational concepts strictly to pure Puritanism type of education only content, obviously is creating a larger gap, not only in the attention span, but also in the value and in the, let's say, benefits that education meant to have from the very beginning of its, which should be something that they could be using in the future, and often it lost its validity, unfortunately, and reliability for that reason. I believe, I'm not promoting it, but it is believed that it could be seen as again as an opportunity for social inclusion, but also some sort of fulfillment in the educational process as well. This is what I have for now, and there are more input if you like, and we'll be happy to share if you like as well. Before we go, sorry, let me just share the screen. In that line, we also have we put together a whole. I'll share the screen now, the entire screen. We put together a YouTube channel. These are edutainment materials that our students are producing. Luckily for us, edutainment was free, so we use that. So these are some of the videos that future teachers are producing themselves that could be also, we share this with teachers that could use this for free with in primary education or secondary education. So some of the videos, these are all products that are done by our students. So this would be, one would be the life of a canine dog in the police service. So it was some sort of, the kids love animals, and how you can put this in how dog can be, the idea of being beneficial to society through bringing some good local examples. So the life of canine dog in the police service, or how musical instruments can be used for teaching grammar. This was an interesting study that was done. For younger learners is a video how to introduce family members. After they watch the video, there are some questions that they have to follow and produce, and use it to replicate and talk about their family. There are certain videos. One video is about how or what does it take to make movies. This is mostly a problem-based learning approach in which you provide some sort of list of tasks for students to follow. While they research, they actually also learn language, and of course learn many other aspects as well in the production process. One topic is digitalization of education. This one was a local topic in regards to segregation in North Macedonia on ethnic lines, and how full integration is missing and what can be done in order for this to be achieved, and so on and so forth. And we're adding on daily basis more and more videos. Of course, in every time the video is shared, we also mention the name of the students who produce this in order to be fair and respect their contribution to the process. This is it for now. I'm happy to discuss further details as well.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. So yes, let's open the floor for questions. So once again, thank you very much for participating, and hope to see you soon. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.